Every person has a story, but not everyone has a place to tell it. I'm Frank Swoboda. I've interviewed amazing people all over the planet. I want you to meet them. This week, the most interesting person you've never heard of is...
My name is Meg Miller, and I am the most interesting person you've never heard of because I let my staff throw me out of an airplane.
Meg Miller, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Frank.
Very, very cool.
This is surreal.
I mean, so what I wanted to talk about, I don't know where this is going to go. Like I've talked, I think you're the sixth podcast we've recorded at this point, and I have no idea where this is going because you're so amazing.
Well, what's amazing is
it's going to be so cool.
And this is six for you and number one for me. And well, I don't. I'm going to follow your lead and do the best I can. I'll take notes as we go.
Well, because what I've been really interested in the last 2 years with the pandemic and everything that's happened is that I think there's a giant reset.
Yeah.
I think if there was a giant reset button, Kelly Green, who works for me, said this is there's like a big giant reset button and everybody hit it. Yeah. And you had a chance to kind of go, what do I really want? We were forced to our homes. We were forced to, kind of rethink things, stop, slow down, not go out. Mm-hmm. Everybody kind of rethought things. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about the big reset because you've done something really, I think it's the big leap, right? There's a book that I love called The Big Leap that I give all my team and that I give clients, and I'll give to you.
Okay, thank
you. Gay Hendricks, the guy that wrote it. It's a phenomenal book about, really it's about self-sabotage, about how most of the people that, most of the problems that happen in people's lives, they create themselves, right?
Oh, okay.
So he was a clinical psychologist at Stanford for decades, and he worked on, I think, like over 5,000 patients. And his job was to just sort of analyze to see if there's a pattern somewhere. And he finally got to a point where he went, I figured it out. They all have something in common. Every person that came to see him as an analyst, that was having trouble in their lives, what he discovered was that they all had done something. They had done something to sabotage themselves back to a place they were more comfortable. So all on the heels of an extended time where things were good. Mm-hmm. So they found, we all hit those times when we call it the zone, where you're in a zone and things are good and life's great, and you're like, wow, this is just like, I know you've been there a lot. I've been there. We're like, I can't get any better, right? And like, when's the shoe gonna drop, right? And subconsciously, his theory is we all are waiting for that because we're not used to an extended amount of time where things are great.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to read it.
Right? Yes. So that you get to a point where you, like, subconsciously something bad happens. You get sick, you make a stupid decision, you do something bad, you have problems with your marriage, whatever. We create these barriers, these bad things that happen that set us back because we're more comfortable with how we are when things aren't great. Because it's what we know.
Well, status
even
quo.
If it's not what we want, it's what we know.
Yeah.
So that's what the big leap is about. It's about getting to a point where you understand, things have been good. Oh, I feel it. I feel that upper limit, he calls it, coming. Okay. I'm going to drop the upper limit, and he sort of teaches you how to do that and to deal with it. And it's an amazing book. Okay. But I've always loved that idea of taking a big leap. And so you have taken a big leap here.
A big leap.
So I want to talk about that.
Okay.
But before I talk about that, to me, what's really, really interesting is, as someone who ran a very successful native casino, what was it like to be a woman in that? I can't imagine there's a ton of native casinos around this country run by women. Maybe there are, and I'm mistaking there, and I'll be happy to be wrong. But can you tell me about what that was like to be in that role?
Well, I have to give credit to an entire team. No one person runs anything, and
right.
Nick Pierce,
oversee, better word.
Well,
responsible for
day-to-day operations. Okay. Definitely the resort. I definitely had.
And just to be clear, Northern Quest. We should explain in case there are people that aren't in this region that are seeing this.
Northern Quest Resort and Casino, huge, incredible, beautiful resort, 4-diamond, 4-star with an independent 4-star spa, 4-star steakhouse, a dozen restaurants and bars, huge.
Just west of Spokane.
In Airway Heights, beautiful 5,000 seat amphitheater, just gorgeous. 250 rooms with a 200-room expansion coming. So yes, I ran all the.
It wasn't all like that when you started, by the way.
Oh well, but again, it's a team and vision. But being a female in that role, I think was only unique insofar as I might have seen the job differently, because the approach to every day for me was very much about people. And I would do what's called property walks twice a day. In the morning, I would not let myself be in my office very many minutes before I would go and have touch points with front desk, with the entertainment team at each food and beverage outlet that was open. And my housekeepers, go up to some rooms and talk to some housekeepers, help them strip beds or make beds, whatever they were up to, because they really had a pulse on what was going on. And I came up through the ranks. The education's required, and of course I got the education credential to make it so I could have that job. But I think the more important education, and where if it's femininity and being a female in the role, or just having walked in most of the shoes, nurturing soul. But I was a maid. They're called housekeepers now, but I was a maid for 2 years. I knew I wanted to be a GM of a hotel at some point, and so while I was at UW.
So when did you do that?
Well, I was at UW.
Okay.
I came home in the summers.
You grew up in Spokane? No, I grew up in Omak.
Well, I grew up in Omak, but I moved here when I was a teenager.
Okay.
And my family lived here when I was at UW. So I'd come home in the summer, and I worked at, now out in the valley, then was the Red Lion, and I was a housekeeper. And we were maids, and it was a tough job. You cleaned 22 rooms a day. And I was a janitor for the 2 years before that. So my facilities team, they would joke, and I'd get on the roof with them every once in a while and try to help with some jobs. I am not a mechanic, but I worked worked as a janitor. I cleaned all the public restrooms.
How did that help you?
Oh, because there's dignity in all work. Just quite sincerely, every single job matters. Every single person who makes somebody feel good in hospitality, or in any, if you're a banker, if you run, a media company, it's a feeling that we're going for, right? Maya Angelou said, people don't remember what you say, they don't remember what you do, they remember how you make them feel. And I firmly believe that most jobs, including all of them in hospitality, any department that I worked with, is about making people feel great. And we do it because I very rarely saw guests. So my guests were my teammates. And so I had to make them feel great, because every single time somebody walked down the hallway and saw that housekeeper, I wanted them to just feel so good about their day. I don't know. So spreading joy made it so they could spread joy. And it wasn't transactional. It's they make it so my job's possible, and that job is to make people feel good.
So I've directed a lot of stuff, from movies to 30-second commercials and everything in between, all kinds of stuff. And I've always believed in having a set. This experience is no different, really, where you feel really comfortable. And if people are feeling comfortable and there's fun and joy on it, that it shows up on the screen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same theory, right?
Yeah.
Like, it does show up.
It does show up.
And the reason... That's probably no small reason why Northern Quest has had the success that it's had. Has to have had a little bit of that.
Oh, I think personal touch, no matter what, makes a difference. And it gives you a chance to listen, because there are real problems that arise. They can be mechanical in nature, they can be systematic in nature, and it can't just be somebody having a really bad day and just needing to be seen and be like, gosh, you should just take off early today.
Well, and if you're not walking around every day and they're not comfortable with you, they're not going to tell you. They're just going to sit behind your back and bitch about it.
And things are going to decay. Things can't improve if we don't share. If we're not open, and we all succeed and or fail together.
Wow.
So it was just, honestly, the high fives in the back of house when I was walking from meeting to meeting were the best part of my day. And just watching people's lives develop. I was there for almost 8.5 years, just under 8.5 years. I had staff who got married, had their first kiddo, bought their first houses. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I had people who were reticent to apply for jobs that they were completely qualified for, because they didn't see what was possible. And it was just a matter of sitting down and just, what do you want? Because I see a lot of just amazing in you. How do we bring that out together in a way that makes you happy?
Right. We just talked about circle plus minus that.
Yeah.
That I'm got to do a podcast about just that sometime. But same thing, right? Because
Yeah.
I really want everybody that's ever worked for me to do what they love to do. And if that means that they're not here, fine.
Yeah.
And everybody that has left has gone to prosper somewhere, and they're still part of this family. They've never left.
Yeah.
But I think that's really, there's two ways to look at that. Like, I want to keep people at this place where I know that I can keep them around. But I've found the more you really support people to do what they love to do and to create a job where they love to do what they do, the longer you have them, the less turnover you have and the more successful you are.
Well, and the more they're willing to think outside the box. Perfect example is this summer concert. Think about this last summer. You couldn't drive down a street or walk down the street and not see a sign, help wanted, be nice to my staff, they showed up today. Everyone knows there's just not enough labor right now for all sorts of reasons.
Everywhere.
And so wanting to make sure that we made people feel safe and healthy and happy and just heal. I think concerts and music help the soul in good times and in bad. So, going forward with the concert series this summer as part of the healing of the region, which I feel strongly that we were part of that.
Everybody missed it and needed it.
Exactly. But then we also were scrambling for staff. So every single concert, I got to look around and see my senior director of sales, who she's not a food and beverage person. She's at a beer cart.
Doing what you gotta do, man.
Looking over and seeing, colleagues, that work, in administration, they're helping the entire sales team, people who, the director of table games out there just helping however they could. And that's a bigger thing than one person. That's people wanting to help people be their best
and caring. So then at the top of it, right?
Yeah.
So you have watched this for years, because when I met you, you were not there.
No,
I've known you that long. Oh my God, that's so funny. You look exactly the same, and I don't.
Oh, baloney! I'm gonna say thank you because I love my mother,
Totally.
and she'd say you're supposed to say thank you. But...
you win on the jeans game. This place, it's got to be one of the best. It has to be one of the best native casinos in the country.
Oh, it is. It's one of two 4-diamond, 4-star casinos, casino resorts. Yeah. It is literally top. I mean, we were featured in NPR. We were featured all over the place, but it is, in terms of service levels, exceptional. And that was the center of my thinking and my personhood every single day. I mean, this Thanksgiving was sort of a joke in at home because it's the first Thanksgiving I didn't go to work, and thank all the staff who were there for the day, and just say, I understand that this is a sacrifice for you, and I am just so grateful.
I'm going to be there too. So you would work on Thanksgiving Day because the rest of your staff did.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Go in and be grateful. First of all, gratitude and kindness are my two favorite things. Anyone who knows me, it's just that, and then like a really good hallway. I want to race down it.
Can you just come over every day?
I hope I make joy. That's we all leave awake. I hope I'm a joy maker. But I mean, if we're not grateful for the people who make a difference, like, what's the point?
Yeah, that is the trick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that. We're in the same tribe because I wake up every day. That's the first thing I do is and you have to. Even the worst days, you have to, and then it's totally sort of agree. Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. And
we have a lot.
And I think really great ideas are more prolific than bad ideas. And I know for a fact, I used to say, almost as an aphorism, there's more good ideas than bad ideas. Whenever I could sense tension coming at a board table or in a meeting, just to help people realize there's more than one right way to do things. But I truly think there's just really so many more. It's a prism of goodness out there. And it's more our attitude and how we react to things, because it might not have been the best idea, but does that really matter? If everybody's got a good attitude and is full-hearted, I say I love people all the time. It's agape love. Not a lot of people are familiar with what agape love is, but it's peace of mind and care for your fellow man. And the more often we can create that, we have succeeded, even if we kind of miss the mark on things. And that service levels come from that every single time. And then profits.
Right. And so profitable, great environment, everybody's happy, you're kicking tail at the top of it, and you decide one day to walk away.
Well, I mean, it wasn't one day.
It wasn't one day. But there was a day that you essentially you have left here at the top.
It was that is true, because there was no up. I mean, it was my
more of great.
In terms of the operation, yes, service levels, there's a lot of opportunity, but
I would think most people would not be leaving at that point, and you decided that there was something else for you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's because, after the concert series, getting our sort of budgets approved and getting the hard work of the year done, it was, do I want to work 12-hour, 16-hour, 11-hour days cocktailing after a whole day of doing, the executive job, and then also making sure everyone's well. There's a degree of exhaustion that I was feeling, and also it was more about growth, learning, and development for me than about the job, because the job is great, and being in a role like that for as long as I could do that job forever and be happy. But I am a learner. I am a constant challenge person. I want to, what's new? How do we, fix this or change that? And every year, it's the Kaizen method. We would do something big. Some
big audacious hairy goal. Idea.
Which one year, I'm not kidding, Frank, the team got to literally make me jump out of an airplane and skydive because yes, I am horrified of heights too. I passed out in the air. My thank you card to the team was the ugliest. I might have some. I'll have to give it to you. The most hideous pictures of me ever. Imagine a human passed out falling through the sky.
You passed out?
Oh, I'm that afraid of heights. I didn't think...
That doesn't sound good.
It sounds terrible to say.
Somebody there helping you wake you up or something?
Yes, luckily.
Oh my God.
Luckily, I was strapped to another person, and I had
really literally
my
knocked
partner
out.
there. No, literally, I did. I am horrified of heights, Frank. I can't get on elevators. So that's why, because the goal was really a reach goal. And I said, you guys get that? Because we kind of goal set together. What's the big thing together? I'll do whatever you want. And unfortunately, a couple of directors were in the room who would have said something like, the most amazing meal, a beautiful bottle of wine, well, I'll go get spots, something. And instead, my more kind of fun and effervescent directors were in the room, and they were like, oh, she's not good with heights. That'd be funny. Let's see if she'll actually do it. Well, I did. It was terrible. And I'm glad I did, because it was also a nice challenge. But we would do big, crazy things. I mean, we converted that place, 3.7 million visitors a year. Wow. I converted that entire place to full recycling, full compost, including upstream how we order food. And we made it so, and with Resource Synergy Group, Eric at Resource Synergy, awesome guy, and our partner in the process.
Here in Spokane, or were they originally?
Here in Spokane, as was the entire team, our facilities team, the food and beverage team.
Local.
It takes everybody, and it was the North Casino as well. So, because all the facilities. So it was a huge team of folks, and it ended up taking us 2 years. Most of the big goals where they're looking at me like...
So what did you want to accomplish? There was just too much waste, right?
Just waste. Sustainability. Just because for me, sustainability is important because it affects equity. I mean, anyone who's the most vulnerable, anything environmental or economic hurts the most vulnerable the least every single time.
The margins.
And so everything that we can do to take care of the world and each other is going to help the margins the most. And that is social justice is at my core, what motivates me. And so that goal did, in all fairness, take us 2 years. The facilities team converted everything to LED, so our energy draw was 100%. There, credit to them for making it so we were more sustainable there. And then recycling everywhere except for the casino floor, because what we learned was, in the middle of the night when there's lights flashing everywhere and you've had cocktails, it's hard to tell the difference between aluminum and glass and garbage. So I'm
not going to say that. I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm really proud of that, because from the beginning, and it's so funny because I talk about indexing and, where did we index? What was the goal? How do we benchmark? Where are we to
business
goal?
Stuff.
Yes, right. But we ended up diverting 49% from our original figure, which is amazing.
So you cut it in half.
Cut it in half, and it's highly profitable. It's good business. I didn't do it for the profits. I analyzed what it would cost, of course, because I was having to be responsible to the tribe at the end of the day.
Right.
But it was the right thing to do and good business.
So how does that work with the tribe? So I've always been really interested in that. Like, I feel like, I've heard somebody say this is like the ultimate revenge for a tribe, right? Because, the fact that they've had such successful casino here, because for a long time there were tribal members, and this country that were not treated well.
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was tough, you know.
If you look at the history, it's not
the history
good.
is not a good one.
No,
and,
no justice.
And you know, the reservations have been tough.
Yeah.
And now, you know, they're in a position of leadership and power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, and
Yeah.
success, which is, I just love
Yeah.
that whole idea that they have, you know, gained a position that they deserve, I think, and earned it back, and however you say it, or earned it. I don't earned it back, but you know, have found this as an interesting, successful way, right, to have a voice in a community that maybe they hadn't had for a long time.
I have to say, you know, I have really, you know, DEI has mattered before it became good for, you know,
DEI, explain that.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, sort of social justice issues around making sure there's equity for all folks who are historically unrepresented. But those things have mattered to me, being from Omak, where I was so grateful to be raised.
So you were born and raised there.
Yes, born and raised in Omak.
Tell us.
So many
Explain
Colville.
Omak.
Oh well, and just the Colville Indian Reservation being there, and
Yep.
they were such advocates for fishing rights and water rights and sustainability. And of course there were the beautiful traditions, the powwow every single year.
So you're
the
not
stampede.
native, but you grew
I'm
up
not,
there.
but I grew up there, so it's so lucky, especially in that time. You know, I was born in 79. Goodness, can we edit that out now that I think
Nope,
about it?
you're
Take it
done.
back.
Too
No.
late. Sorry.
But there wasn't a great cable and all these things in rural America, so we didn't even have TV.
filmed there for SDCU a whole campaign because they just merged with one of the credit unions there, and did an incredible story on this amazing native fisheries biologist. Named Kirsten Brundevold.
Okay.
And Brudevold.
Okay.
And her little daughter, and just, I mean, it's just I don't know, the energy that she brings, and the pace, and you know, I mean, she's doing amazing science. So Women in Science Native, very cool,
beautiful,
story, and
I'd love to meet her.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I would love that
she is
very much.
Super inspiring.
Well, and at the end of the day, I mean,
And loves being in Omak, loves being with her home.
Yeah, because there's a sense of land and connection to Mother Earth.
Like 13,000 years.
Yeah, exactly. The creator, grandmother creator for, and so, and that was so lucky because it just is. It's not something that you are taught. It's just a culture you are blessed to be raised near. So you can't explain it. It's just indigenous ways of thinking and being. You're just blessed to have exposure to, and then, you know, coming to Spokane, great. I love Spokane so much. This community is home, and it was home even when I was at Omak, 'cause my grandparents lived here and my parents went to school here.
It's the big town.
It's the big town.
It
for
is.
the entire
You get to go to
east
the big
side.
town, yeah.
But there's something to be said for that 7 generations thinking, and for me professionally, that was the most profound education from the elders. And there was a handful of elders who taught me so much, and really. And then I applied to the.
They taught you before you worked for the tribe.
No, while I worked for the tribe.
Okay.
Yep, and I was so blessed to have that. And that's the greatest education. The business side is amazing. I mean, being able to open things, change things, retool things, you know, segment things and optimize things, that is amazing. But it's really those lessons you get from elders who have. I think it's an African proverb, something like, what the old man sees sitting down, the young man can't see standing up. But there's something to that, right? Life has to be lived, and
that native culture honors the elders.
Yeah,
a million times better than our culture does.
I totally agree.
Like, what happens to that? There's such an incredible resource that my hope in the next, you know, decades.
Yeah.
You know, centuries is that we start to, you know, hopefully you and I are honored for the knowledge that we have. I had the same experience. I remember the first project I ever did was for the Colville tribe. The first video I ever did 23 years ago for Jim Desitel.
I love Jim Desitel.
He needs to be on the show. Oh my God.
I love him.
Jim Desitel. I got to. He's my first job.
Yes.
He was so great. And the video was all about how to assimilate non-natives who are working with the tribe. So that was my first video project I ever produced when I was in Spokane.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like I had to learn, okay, I'm standing in the shoes of the non-native.
Yeah.
What do I got to know?
Wow.
And it was, that stayed with me. That project has never left.
What sort of lessons did you take from it? I'm just curious because Jim is a smart guy.
One of the coolest things about it, just in interviewing the elders, the people from the tribe, and that was the question I asked them. And it was one of the first projects I ever, I've been interviewing people ever since and still doing it, was what do I need to know? Just the simple question. And I remember one of the tribal leaders he said, it's really important for you to know right now that our elders are in this room with us. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, no, I don't think it was even that. It wasn't during the interview. It was, we were talking about something that we were going to do on the project. And he goes, well, let me ask our elders. And I said, oh, okay, well, get back to me when you let me know what they say. And he goes, no, I'm asking them right now. And I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, they're in the room with us. And I'm like, I still got to chills right now.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, and I could feel it. Like he had a sense that they were surrounding them and he just needed to listen. And I never forgot that. I was like, whoa, that is such a different way of thinking and awareness that they had, that he had.
It's a different way of being.
It's a different way of being that you have guides and teachers that are here for you.
Yeah.
We just don't use them. We think we got it all.
Yeah.
And I never forgot that kind of moment.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important things if you're dealing with Native culture is that they're tapped into that and we're not.
Yeah.
And I felt really missing.
Yeah.
I felt like I want what that guy's got.
I could,
you know what I mean?
I could not agree with you more because there's a responsibility.
Did you experience that?
Glenn Nenema, the tribal chairman, he's an elder, and then obviously he was is the CEO and the chairman for the tribe. But it's so interesting because you in the actions, it's honoring the elders that came before, their work, and understanding that they were stewards handing something down for them to be honored, but then also to think of the next generation still to come. Right. And that 7 generations, you really have to think about what you're leaving behind. And it's not ever about money.
So when you say to have 7 generations, you're making decisions now. You're keeping in mind that 7 generations from now,
5 after you, because
5 after you are going to be affected by the decisions you make.
Wow. And the pace is different, which is good for a person like me who, let's just be honest, Tasmanian devil. That might be.
Have some more
exactly.
Relax.
Yeah,
no wonder you like those.
Well, and energetic is one of the first adjectives used to describe me. To be exposed to a pace that is measured. And in a 7 generation measure, it's
way more chill. It's a different gear.
Depth. It's because there's such depth to the decision making, and it's
unrushed.
It's unrushed and it's contemplative.
Yeah,
and that's one thing I have to say. What I love so much is I had an awakening in education during an executive role, which usually it would just be about being a professional, right? This is the job. This is executing the job well, etc. But I really had a chance. There's an elder. There's a video that plays. It's on the website, but also in the Heritage Hallway at Northern Quest. And there's an elder who's still alive. Her name's Helen Sherwood. And she says, she was talking about her elders. And it's so fun for me to listen to elders talk about their elders too. Because I'm like, wow, you are one. And that's just such a big deal. Wow, you have so much knowledge that I know that there is to learn. And you've walked a path that
What gift are you going to give?
Yeah, there's so many gifts. Exactly. And she says the elders never reached for more than they needed. And that means so much to me because that talks about, just everything from sustainability to kindness to community. And it's just... that I think is beauty. Yeah. In a sentence, that's beauty.
Yeah, and really juxtaposed to your energy and your go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I want they've become your spiritual teachers, right?
100%
you must have.
teachers.
I mean, you found yourself there for a reason to slow your gear down.
Exactly, and also
and it probably didn't.
And maybe that's fair, but also to think about
it has.
What contribution am I going to make? And then being in, so I applied to Gonzaga.
Right, that was the next thing to talk about.
The MBA
the
program.
next step for you.
Well, the MBA program, and this was
at Gonzaga University.
Before the pandemic. So, you apply in the fall to start the next year, whatever that lag time is. So this is before the pandemic even started. And then pandemic sets in first semester, and I'm like, oh gosh, am I going to be able to do my job and get an MBA?
So you were working at Northern Quest and getting an MBA at the same time. That's crazy.
Oh well, I mean, gosh, my kids are older.
I know you're not the only one that does that.
Plus, reading and writing is pretty much my favorite. In my downtime, I want to read and research and write. So the schoolwork was the fun part.
Right.
But I had applied for the American Indian Entrepreneurship track because, being raised in OMAC and really loving the indigenous values, that 7th-generation thinking, not taking more than you need, thinking about the impact of our actions for the hearts around us, the minds around us, and ecology. Just that mattered a lot. And I knew I wanted to infuse that in my education. Like, how can I be more open to things that I haven't experienced so that I can help increase the world, right? Because helping the marginalized helps especially women, and I am very biased toward helping marginalized women because that changes the world.
Yep.
And just statistically, it literally changes the world. And
we just had our last guest before you were here a couple of days ago, who I don't know if it'll air in the order that we're doing this, but her name's Maisa Abudaya, and she runs Feast World Kitchen here, we're part of that, and is one of the leaders of that organization, and from a refugee from Jordan.
I don't know her, but I can tell you everyone should go because the food's great. I went there when they had curry.
Gosh. So
I can't remember the chef they had, but
so our gift to our clients this year for Christmas is we're going to run a digital ad campaign and we did a video ad for Feast World.
That's amazing.
So that we can, for the month of January, push them out. And so and I'll do it again, but we asked I said on the podcast, anybody that wants to contribute to that to keep it rolling so that they can continue to thrive, because I totally agree. Like we are all immigrants.
Yeah.
Right. And they're here new, and they're doing
except for Native Americans.
That's true.
So that being talking about.
I'm an immigrant. That's very,
but
you're right. No, you're right.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's
I learn
good
something
to
every
land
time.
on her.
No kidding. I got to rethink that. But to help them, because they just want an opportunity.
Yeah.
They just want a chance.
There's room for everyone. I worry that too much of the world is seen through these scarce binary lenses, and I really I think there's so much. It's if we just saw the world. Oh well, you're a movie maker and you do see the world through a prism, but that is literally all potential. It's like a rainbow of possibility, quite literally. And if people could see it as a prism, as so many good things, as so many beautiful options and twists and turns, and then just decided to increase it and see it as on off.
Yep.
Friend foe.
So you decide the track that you're on now? Explain what you're doing, because it's really amazing to me. It's really cool. I don't know when you started that thinking or when you decided to take that leap, but the leap that you're at right now is really cool. Exactly.
Leap is a really good word for it. And it's like, and to kind of do it publicly, just because I feel like we get so comfortable that we either get stuck in a status quo or saying, I'm going to try something big and I might fail epically, and I guess I'll just do it publicly if I fail. I'm going to choose not to fail. It might just take me a while.
You, Meg Miller, are never going to fail.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
That's my gift. I appreciate that. And
actually, I don't believe in failure, because you should be able to learn forward and all the,
but you're not.
aphorisms people say nowadays. But I am so grateful that this program was one that I knew about and that I applied to, because there were some assignments.
Explain what it is.
So the American Indian Entrepreneurship track. So it's in the MBA school at Gonzaga University. But for me, because it's really important to me that it helps support community.
So you're getting your PhD from Gonzaga University.
Nope, I haven't. I am applying to programs. Literally, I'm studying for my GMAT right now. I am hopefully going to get into WSU, but we'll see. I'm going to apply to a few programs around the area. I'm getting my MBA from Gonzaga University. But have to study for my GMAT, which I have to know geometry now, which is really funny.
You could talk to my daughter, who's a junior at University of Washington, and her math challenges right now. She just got through the hardest quarter of her life, and she made it. So she'll help you.
I'm 42 years old. I didn't think I'd have to know geometry again. I was like, what? There's geometry on this?
I thought I was done.
I thought I was done with that, but
oh my gosh.
but there were so like Dan Stewart. He taught our entrepreneurship class. And he had us do a reflection, which is a Jesuit institution, and I'm Jesuit Catholic, so I quite appreciate the tradition. And
speaking of tribe, we come from the same tribe.
Yeah,
there,
sure. and you know, you are
we're
men and women
kids.
for others, right? For others,
leaders
so,
in general.
Yeah, and all about social justice, and it was so amazing because he's such a great professor, but he walked us through all the things you're supposed to know in terms of business development and doing sort of, you know, value proposition statements and taking people through strategic planning and all these great things. And then he had us write a reflection at the end of it. And I was like, gosh, how am I going to do a reflection? And pretty contemplative. So I'm like, here's the assignment. Let me think about it. How do I really answer this question? And then starting to work on it, I was like, oh my gosh, really everything can have such more meaning than just the task at hand. And there are a number of professors. Brian Steverson, he taught ethics. He was my ethics professor, again, just at Gonzaga in their MBA program. And just he went through, you know, business ethics and then really overlaid, you know, a lot of challenging ethos on top of it just for our consideration. And then again, a reflection. And I cannot underscore how much Gonzaga's MBA program opened my thinking at a time where I didn't even realize how impactful it could be. And then you get to an inflection point, because when you want to get a PhD in business, it's best to have been an executive for some time. And I want to get a PhD in operations. So good to have run a major operation for, you know, better part of a decade, right? That didn't hurt. And then for me, because everything I do comes back to social justice, even my job, I was like, how do I make sure if somebody's got childcare issues, they know they can leave work early and we can, you know, like how do you be
down
part of the
to
solution,
person to
right?
person.
Yeah, exactly. Because we all need it at one time or another. And it was just kind of an alignment of the stars. And then we were on vacation and I backpacking, now paddleboarding. We bought paddleboards during the pandemic. That was our new
come out to my lake. You can hang out.
Oh my gosh, coffee and paddleboarding.
The best lake for it.
Pretty much the best. Which lake is it?
Marshall Lake.
Where is that?
That's up. You know where Bead Lake is in Newport.
Okay, so you know why? You know why I'm the board.
Hang out.
I'm the board chair for Visit Spokane.
Yeah. Oh, you are. That's right.
The coolest thing to say is there are 270 lakes within an hour drive of Spokane.
Isn't that ridiculous?
So I don't know either of the lakes you just said.
Well, that's the funniest thing.
Because it's so cool to be here.
This guy moved into town one time, and he called me, and he's like, "I'm trying to get a hold of this attorney, and it's Friday afternoon, and I can't get him. And which one is the lake?" Oh.
Well, the lake in Coeur d'Alene,
there's about 200 of them.
Yeah, but is it? Well, and they just had their annual meeting. Well, Visit Spokane. We just had our annual meeting, and you know they did the video sort of montage sort of thing and the marketing stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool here. Train,
unbelievable here. And this is the best place in the world to be. It is. There's a vortex here.
There is,
and there's people. I mean, Zach, who's producing this podcast, he was a year ago. He was in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
But he came here because it's a place to live. He had a friend who said like, "Hey man, move here."
Yeah.
That's who never lived here when I was growing up. They would leave. We would grow up and leave. Right. We would go to Chicago. We would go to Seattle. We would go to wherever. Everybody from Seattle, Portland's moving here, and the thing that's bringing this community is creativity and interest and, you know, hipsters and whatever, because they can afford to be here, and it just makes the whole environment amazing. This is the best this place has ever been.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's the best it's ever been.
It's the best mid-sized city in America.
It's like a renaissance. I mean, really.
It absolutely
we have to give
100%.
credit to 1974 and King Cole and all the business
100%.
leaders to have cleaned up downtown.
I have a great King Cole story. So King Cole's the guy that started Expo 74.
Yes, Expo 74. I mean, the fact that they cleaned up downtown, and that was...
the railroads
that
were
changed everything
through the middle.
And now this is
their whole goal of doing the World's Fair
was to clean it up.
Sounded the smallest town that ever received a World's Fair in 1974. And when World's Fairs were cool,
And it was an environmental one. We were the first environmentalism
That's exactly
one.
right. I remember
Yes.
it. You don't remember that.
I
You weren't
was not
alive.
born yet,
Okay, I
yeah.
was like 7 or something. I remember coming down all the time. We would like come hang out at Expo, and it was an amazing
Because the World's
thing.
Fair was the
and
coolest
you
thing
could
ever.
go in literally and walk in and go, "This is the Russian embassy."
Mm-hmm,
You know, this is the. You would meet the world, and so It's funny. My brother and I have traveled all over the world, and we filmed everywhere: China,
Yeah.
Europe, whatever. And I'm like, we had that conversation. I think Expo was part of that. Like, we just knew it was okay to meet the world, and we got to meet the world here, which is a really rare, right, cool
Frank,
thing.
thank you for saying that, because you
We
were
did.
exposed to possibility.
Absolutely,
And then look at what you
100%
have
of
done.
it.
You've made
And
movies.
they
you've
were
made
people
businesses.
just like me.
Yeah.
And that was the experience when I traveled abroad. Everybody is.
And you knew it was possible.
And I knew it was possible, and I just didn't think it wouldn't happen, and I knew it would happen, and
Yeah.
it did happen. Right.
Yeah.
That gift was huge.
Yeah.
And really the whole goal was we want to have a park here instead of railroads.
Yeah.
Which was
Just
an
clean up.
environmental thing
Yeah.
to begin with too. But
Totally.
King Cole later in life, so he was in his 80s, and he was kind of a couple years before he had died, and I did a bunch of work for an amazing company called Family Home Care.
Okay.
That an awesome guy named Mike Nailing, who's still a really good friend today, ran. And my, I'm like, hey, who do you have that are clients that, he goes, well, one of our clients is King Cole. And I'm like, who? Like King Cole, the guy that started Expo? He goes, yeah, he's one of our clients. I go, would he be on camera? Can we have him share what he loves about you guys? He goes, yeah, he'll do it. And I met his family, and he was on camera, and he was super sharp, but clearly at the end of his life. And I got a chance to sit down and talk with him and interview him. And
So
my
what
dad had known
lesson?
him.
What did you take from him? What was
Well, the most amazing thing to me was he was just the core of it for me, which was interesting about the company, was I go, what do you love about Family Home Care? This is about that, really. And he said, oh, I love Chuck. It wasn't about the place. It was about the guy who was the caregiver for them that he worked with. I go, what do you love about Chuck? Well, he's not the youngest guy. And, King's in his 80s, right? And I was like, and Chuck was in his 50s. He goes, we can talk about stuff. He's more than just a guy that takes care of me.
Yeah.
And I go, he knew who Bing Crosby was. He knows who Bing Crosby is. He goes,
Oh my God.
yes, he knows who Bing Crosby is. And that was the key to us helping Family Home Care grow. They were in third place in the market. 5 years later, they're in first place.
I actually,
He
when I
sold
was
the business.
when I was at Car Construction, I did a project for Mike Dowling. I know him; he's a lovely
Mike's
human being, and his
fantastic.
wife's lovely
Isn't he
too.
Carol's phenomenal.
He probably wouldn't know me from anyone, but I actually
He probably
was a client
would.
of mine. No, he was lovely.
He will remember you.
I was his
He's an
project
amazing
manager.
guy. And
Yeah.
and I said to Mike, I go, that's what it's all about. You've got to, as the marketer of me, you need caregivers that are older.
Yeah.
And so they did. They got
Yeah.
caregivers that are older that were. I go,
Heartening.
you need my sister who worked in retail forever and now wants to give back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they did, and it took them all the way to first place.
That's amazing.
And yeah,
He's a really good guy. That
amazing
doesn't
guy.
surprise
They had
me
been
at
in
all. Yeah,
third
he's
place
amazing.
for 10 years,
Yeah,
7
yeah.
to 10 years, and then they instantly went to first because he told his story and he invested in it, but also that he told the right kind of story and he acquired the right kind of people.
Yeah.
But I said, you have to realize who King Cole is, because Mike had moved from California here and he knew he was a big deal, but he didn't realize he can grow up here. Everybody at that time who was 50 or older knew who King Cole was. I go, Mike, he's your Michael Jordan for Nike.
Yeah,
like he is
really
your
is.
Michael Jordan.
He really is.
He is the gold seal.
Yeah.
Anybody that is over 50 in this town that knows who King Cole is, right?
I love that you're saying
trust
over
him."
50. I love that you're saying over
Well,
50.
at that point.
Well, no,
Because that was who that audience was.
Well, there's truth to that too.
Because the kids of the people in their 70s and 80s were really the client. They were making the decisions.
Yeah.
For where did mom and dad go? The oldest, my oldest sister, Mary Kay, runs the show of all 8 kids in our family, and all of us would agree. Like at the end of the day, Mary Kay's like, yeah, whatever, I'm in charge.
Now that
right?
makes me want to text my
that was our
siblings.
audience.
Which of the 5 of us is?
Right? Our audience was
say.
her because she was going to make the decision
She's
for
gonna
her
make the
mom and
decision,
dad
yeah.
caregiver. And so we focused everything on her. So everything we ran was to 50-ish year
Smart.
old women,
Yeah.
both caregivers and decision makers.
Yeah.
And it completely worked. But because they had King Cole
Yeah.
as a guy that
That's
said, these guys
amazing.
are great.
So did he end up? He was in Family.
He was in the commercials.
Commercial.
Yep,
Oh, wow.
yep. And he passed away. And the family was like, we're like, oh, Mike's like, King Cole passed away. I'm like, what a sad day, for this
Yeah.
community.
He was a
And I'm like,
pillar.
A pillar. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we better take the commercials off the air, And I said, well, let me call and talk to the family. They were
This-
phenomenal
yeah,
people.
yeah.
Mary's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, you know what? We'd like to keep it on.
Honor his legacy. It's not as if it would stop.
And it
stop
didn't run
being
forever,
important
but
to
it
him.
ran for another year or so. And
Yeah.
it meant a lot to them.
Oh, I love your
know.
emotion. I always say I'm an emotional dude. I really love that because
Yeah.
I think showing up wholeheartedly as a person
Yeah.
makes it so we increase the world just by being
Yeah.
here because we give people permission
Yeah.
to just be themselves.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a crier, dude.
I am
and when I
too.
interview people, I just lose it. Usually all the time. It's like,
That makes you so much more endearing, which is almost impossible.
I always feel a little self-conscious about it, but
Oh, you
anyway,
shouldn't.
yeah,
I think it's especially now. I hope that one of the lessons
Empathy.
is empathy and letting down our guard.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in Zoom all the time. We see people's children and cats and dogs. If we
No
haven't
kidding,
surrendered
right?
to the concept of letting our
And the
guard
laundry
down,
and the,
we're never
come
going
on.
to.
I know
right?
it's not now.
Let's
when
get over
we're-
ourselves.
So, what do you want to do with this next step with you, especially around the native culture?
Yeah, native culture and women, especially.
What do you hope to achieve, and what would be the end game, or do you know?
First of all, don't totally know
That's
because
the other big leap.
Yeah, no, it is a big leap because if you're so busy and since February 25th, I'll never forget the day I emailed out to the entire executive committee and all my staff saying, "Hey guys, so we all know I'm obsessed with, the St. Louis Federal Reserve website and always looking at if there's something a coming and the Economist and just I don't worry per se, but I issue spot pretty much constantly so we could be ahead of things instead of
trying to
trying to catch up all the time.
That's our job, right?
And so emailed out saying we've got to start continuity planning tomorrow for a pandemic. And a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? Because it's February.
Wow.
Most people were not really super worried about it last February 2 years ago.
Right.
And pretty much, it was just a lot, being a student and then a full-time mom. And
so when did you officially leave Northern Quest?
first email was in September, and then
of 2020?
This year, no,
2021.
Just now, yeah. So first email, just like I was on vacation, guys. I really think that I'm about to take a big leap. Being in Jackson and right?
It's a great spot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And those mountains,
Beautiful.
they're called the Cathedral Mountains.
Yeah.
And then paddleboarding and hiking in those in the fall, and the color, and it was just breathtaking. And
Reset.
yeah, it helps you reset and just be in the world. And it's like, yeah, I don't think I can do this full-heartedly. I don't know what the next big idea is. We're kind of toward the end of recycling. We've had all these big things we've done. It's like, if I don't have, heart, mind, everything, the energy, all ahead. And instead I was just tired. And the more it's like, oh, I'm just tired. That's not good. That's not helping anybody.
It's not good for the organization.
It's not good for anyone to be tired. So it's like, okay, really. So it's just, guys, I don't know. We might have to talk about this. And then a more earnest conversation right when I got back from vacation, early October. And then by, the end of October, and last week of October.
Really, it's new.
Has not.
This is new.
Well, and then it's so funny too because I was like, I'll take the GMAT and apply to, be in a PhD program next year, which is hilarious because think about how much work. Running that place and then through a pandemic.
I cannot imagine
that job without it. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. It fueled me.
You were born for it.
But that plus a pandemic plus an MBA. I'm just saying. I graduated a couple kids from high school at that time too. It's like a lot. It was a lot. So I hadn't really researched GMAT. I was like, I've taken the GRE before. It's a test. It's for business school. I've been doing this for 20 years. The GMAT, I don't even know what it stands for, which is funny. But it's just half quantitative, half qualitative test to get into.
It's like an SAT, but for
SAT for business school, exactly. And it's required for PhD, business PhD programs. But it was so funny. This is so me too. My first Monday off, I was like, well, I ordered I went and ordered the books and they got there by Thursday. So my first Friday off, the books had come in from Amazon.
Well,
I had
really
my study
took
materials.
a break.
Oh, aren't I good at a break? And I loved it too because I opened it up and I'm sitting there. I have everything laid out in the office and I'm reading and you flip 2 pages and it says stop. Take a diagnostic test. And this is so me. Indexing, love it. It's like just speaks to my wiring. So I was like, oh, I love this. They want me to do this with nothing. They're like, you turn to this page and you've got this code. Go online, take the test. Took the test. And I was like, okay, this isn't bad. But then I, I did the qualitative part first, which is fun. I love words. And then I did the quantitative part. I'm like, geometry? I don't remember the diameter of a circle. Pi r what?
Why does that matter?
What? Geometry? And then, a lot of statistics, but without Excel. So just,
you couldn't cheat.
I was like, wait, I've been using Excel forever. So, and then there's no calculator, which is amusing to me. So I that really was an awakening where I was like, maybe I should have looked at what was on this test before I took the leap. But really, it was the only time, because the new hotel's opening in a year and a half.
Right.
And I would not leave that on any executive director, because they have to run all the restaurants. They have to run the entertainment. They have to run the facility.
Here just before Christmas. It's a few months later. How do you feel about this jump?
Oh my gosh. Well,
you know it's right.
Feelings change. I do know it's right. But feelings do change. Some days I'm like, I really wish I was with the team. But it's so great because they're my family. People have been collected. And you know how that is. And there's love. Exactly. And some days I'm like, oh gosh. I was there the other day for an event. A tribal member hosted an event there and invited me. And I went and I walked in. I was like, okay, I moved a couple garbages. I picked up some trash off the floor. I resisted texting. I was like, gosh, guys, it was so hard for me not to actually get in work mode. And I only did the things I could, like as I was walking down the hallway, because I wouldn't have felt right if I didn't. I'm sure I looked so weird because I was in like a cocktail dress going to a party. And I'm sure some of the other guests were like, why is this lady like moving garbage cans? Like,
stop, Meg.
Like
stop
cleaning
now.
things, picking up trash. But I will always probably do that when I'm there, and I can't wait to get to the spa. They got me a really nice spa package,
and
I was like,
cool.
okay, I can't wait to use it.
She's still there?
Yeah, no, it's like
I
know, me too. She's amazing.
So what's your hope this?
So my hope
this path.
So my hope is to get into a program that really walks the walk and not just talk the talk of women in operations, women in business leadership, because statistically to run an operation, especially at the executive level, and then you get into multi-$100-million companies, very rare air.
Right. Those are the corporations that really run this world.
Yeah.
And there are very few women that are in that. You were at a pretty big position in this region. But very few other women than you. You were probably
actually no. There's a lot of amazing. If you think about our banks, I'm
talking about in the industry you're in.
Oh yeah. Well, Linnell at the Davenport.
That's right.
Yep.
So it's happening.
Yeah, it is happening. But then you go to resort casinos. And even hotels that are, approaching that $100 million threshold. I didn't just run the hotel, obviously. It was all non-casino operations. But you go to the conferences, and you're by yourself.
How many guys compared to you?
Percentage-wise, it's got to be 90-10.
Wow.
It's very male-dominated, but it is a demanding job.
For sure.
You are never off.
Right.
It's every
single
minute of every day.
So part of this goal for you is to get in a position where you can raise those boats.
Yes,
right?
and
more women are going to be in those positions.
And I have to credit my kids, the college kids. During the pandemic, they were over 21.
Your kids in college, yeah.
Yes, and having the occasional COVID cocktail around the fire pit when they were all stuck at home with us, which was great for me. But they would have we had a bubble that allowed for each of them to have a couple of friends, and one of them had a friend who was in accounting, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love accounting and finance, so much fun. Revenue management is so cool. Like, I love talking about control charts and revenue management, which again, you go to a revenue management conference,
so different than
I'm like
there.
The one female at that conference. I'm like, this is so cool, you guys, we should talk about distribution channels. But she was so into it. I was like, I love hearing how excited she is about accounting. And then she wrote an essay about me for her business school. She's down at WSU, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is the sweetest.
You inspired
and
her.
The kids were just like, you had to be a teacher because you have a professor. You have so much energy. Most business schools are male dominated.
So is that where you see this?
That's really my dream.
A professor in a business school.
Yeah, that's my dream.
That honors and encourages women.
Yep, and I would spend a lot of time. I really love the nonprofit world. Obviously, was with Inovia on their board for a while. Love Vanessa Behan. Yeah, and I love philanthropy generally. Yeah. I tend to gravitate toward things that help lift up children. So obviously Vanessa Behan is one that's near and dear to my heart. But anytime you help women and children, especially vulnerable women and children, again, you literally change the world. So that's where my heart tends to be. So my dream would be PhD in operations, and then go teach operations and any, anything around business really, but in a business school, and then in my non purely academic time, really just lift up young women and go out to places like reservations, and to Tattoos on the Heart is one of my favorite books. There's that Margins mission that Father Boyle allows people to do.
Yeah,
I would
amazing.
love to go into Boyle Heights and talk to the inner city young ladies, because you have to intervene young. Think about, you saw at Expo 74. Wow,
Right.
Here's just the world. I'm just going to go do the world now. That's what I'm going to do. And I want them to see I'm just a lady from OMAC, and I just really like business, and you can too. There's nothing special. It's just applying
It's
yourself.
possible.
Yeah.
Believing that it's possible.
Yeah, and I really would, because if you go to the St. Louis Federal Reserve website, it's so cool. You could just grab little different data points and years. So you could just plot. You could put in your year. Let's just say I went in and said 1979 and chose a demographic and said Native, female, and just put those 3 data points in. It will show you social mobility. And
What's it tell you?
That is the least socially mobile group in the United States of America.
Meaning what?
Meaning whatever socioeconomic status or education level that the folks that you were born to is likely where you're going to remain. Wow. So that social mobility, and there's not a lot of social mobility for folks at the margins,
right.
And a lot of it I worry is
so when
lack
social
of
mobility,
exposure.
you mean the chance for them to advance beyond what they currently have had.
Create a world. It could be whatever world they want.
So when I talk about Kirsten, the fisheries biologist,
yes,
she is really breaking the mold.
She's amazing.
Born in OMAC and doing that, and,
Yes.
and on a scholarship from the tribe.
She's
so
amazing.
The tribe encouraged that scholarship.
Yeah.
She went to Eastern, she got a degree. Now she's doing fishery biology work. She's a scientist that's trying to figure out a way for the salmon to come back to her land. How cool is that?
It's amazing.
And that's rare.
That's
you need to meet
a
her.
miracle.
You totally need to meet her.
She's completely
Phenomenal.
amazing.
Yeah.
So
her daughter is unbelievable. Like 9.
You're
And
going
I'm
to
like,
have to
whoa.
introduce me to her.
Oh.
I love OMAC. Loop, I got to get up there and
You
ski anyway. That's where I grew up skiing.
So I want to ask one question about OMAC. I've had the real pleasure the last couple of years. I find myself lots of places around the world, really, literally. But the last few years, I've found myself in small town America a lot. And I've always thought we as a company, I love doing projects for organizations in mid and small town America, mid-size America.
Yeah.
Because I think you can make a bigger difference there.
Oh, yeah.
We do run campaigns
Yeah.
in big cities. We just finished a campaign in New York and moved the dollars to go to San Diego. And we do, for our clients, run big markets.
Yeah.
But I think you make a bigger impact on the community there because you
Yeah.
can tell real stories there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we go to Steamboat, Colorado, and we go to Missoula, and we go to Great Falls, and we go to Trout Creek, Montana, and we go to these smaller towns and feature the people there. Talk to them like we're talking with you, and feature them and have them tell the story of their community because it's more powerful because it's local and it's real.
Yeah.
Right. And I always felt like when I got to OMAC and when we got to Wilbur and a lot of these small towns that we've been able to work with.
To get there even.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You do. That this is an area that's really been left behind.
Yeah.
And this is the fabric of when I was a kid. Those were the strongest communities that you had. Farming communities.
Yeah.
Big money. Everybody was healthy. There was a doctor in town. There was a lawyer in town.
You had a dentist. You had a doctor.
You had one of each. You had all the stuff.
Yep.
We actually had a project with Catholic Charities, Eastern Washington, featuring. They have a program now that will from Spokane that will take volunteers out to people in need in those small towns. I'm talking about women in their 80s whose husband passed away and they owned a big farm who can't get to the doctor because there isn't one anymore.
Oh gosh.
And the loss of infrastructure to those communities, the increase in the problem really of opioids and drug addiction and meth and all the things that are kind of hitting there has made these small communities really, really drop off.
Yeah.
And you have such a heart for OMAC. Are you experiencing that too? Do you find that that's the same thing? I think it's one of the things Trump tapped into.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the reasons that there's a divide in this America between
urban, rural,
and rural,
yeah.
because they got a point. And
Yeah.
a lot of people that live in urban communities can say, oh, whatever about it. But when I go there and hang out with these people, they're the best people in the world, and they just feel left behind.
Yeah. Well, you can even just look at infrastructure, right? Do they actually have internet? What is their bandwidth? You can look at just very plain fact-based. Yeah, infrastructure generally. If it doesn't exist,
right.
It doesn't exist. That's irrefutable.
Yep.
And so, I
think that's the next big challenge for us as Americans,
well,
to increase those
the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to repair those communities.
Yeah.
Because they're powerful. I mean, when I look at Spokane and the growth here that we have,
oh yeah,
I mean, there's towns like Wilbur and Davenport and Creston or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not that. They're not
so funny.
far, Highway 2. Yeah. Right? They're not far from here.
Yeah.
You can drive to Davenport in an hour in 40 minutes.
Weird in Davenport, so easy. Oh
that's a bedroom community for this town. Like, why not move there, buy a kick-ass house,
have a
drive
farm,
in have a farm, have some
barn
room,
party,
buy the cheaper house. I mean, I think people are going to get smart here and start moving there because there's no place here to get by anymore.
Well,
I mean, this town is saturated.
Here's a fact: Zoom. And being able to do a lot of
work
jobs remotely. Exactly.
Oh.
I don't know that I would necessarily want to be in a concrete jungle if I know that I can be by 270 lakes.
And I'm not just talking about Spokane. I'm talking about the increase in telecommuters. Yeah. We have clients in Missoula, and a big part of their audience are telecommuters who are working in Silicon Valley, but living in Missoula.
They can afford
They're
a
living
house.
here too.
They get a mountain bike. They get a paddleboard.
100%.
Yeah, they get to have the best of both worlds.
I know. So that's a.
Hopefully that will help. Hopefully that'll help bridge the gap that's been created infrastructure wise, and also just sort of drain.
Because what's it like for you when you go back to OMAC? Do you feel the erosion a little bit?
It definitely feels different. I mean, we didn't
different
have,
than 1979.
We didn't have Walmart. We didn't. I mean, we would take our quarter and get a dilly bar as like the coolest thing ever. From OMAC Elementary, it was a very far walk. And we had the A&W, but there wasn't a lot there. So floating the river, looking forward to the powwow, stampede, and suicide race, being so excited to sled. I just feel lucky because you look at,
that was a great time.
Americana, right? We went outside when the sun came up and played soccer and floated the river and went to the pool and just had adventure until it got dark. And that's everyone.
And not that doesn't still happen there, because it does.
I don't know if it happens enough here. I don't know if it happens enough anywhere anymore.
No, it doesn't.
I just don't know. Because we didn't have TV.
Right.
I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere unless you have a giant satellite dish and you know how to actually make it work, which nobody, no matter what, everyone was doing all the little toggle.
Didn't you have Pong?
Oh, yes, actually. The neighborhood did have Atari. It was pretty awesome.
Atari was
awesome. It was
Defender.
Awesome. And she was also the one with the terrible dish, which my mother couldn't stand. But to get a group of 10-year-olds trying to actually make it face in such a way you get anything but ants didn't work. So for all intents and purposes, we didn't get TV.
I just wanted to share that because I know that town means a lot to you.
Well, and I just think there's something to be said for being a neighbor and knowing your neighbors. Because you can do that even in places like Spokane. We're lucky because, just like you said, Mike Dowling, I was like, I actually did a project for him.
Right. You know somebody that knows.
Yeah, exactly.
It is not. It's still a big, small town.
It is a big, small town. But what I love about small town is it's your neighbor. And that means you're neighborly. And not because you have to. And not because of anything other than just kind of like tribal traditions. You're all in it together.
Right.
Because whether we choose to believe it or not, we really are all in it together. The things I do.
Every day more and more.
Yeah. The things I choose to do in terms of my carbon footprint and my social responsibility really do affect everyone.
And the planet.
Yeah, they affect the planet, which affects everyone.
And our kids know way more than we do.
I know, isn't that great?
It
my
is.
Kids are really,
I believe in them.
My kids are the reason why I'm taking this leap. They really are. It's like, you can kind of lecture and it's like, you have to kind of.
So take your magic wand.
Oh, okay.
All right, you get
oh
a magic
gosh.
wand.
Can I take it with me today?
Yeah. But
okay,
wave it right now. What do you want? What do you hope? What would you do with that wand in the next 5 years for
next 5 years?
If you create anything,
doing great research. I have a couple papers I'm going to work on with regarding the pandemic, and I don't know yet. I'm just collecting data right now from a couple of sources and seeing how it impacted women, because I can conjecture and theorize, but I really need to take my hypothesis to proven, statistical analysis, and really start researching, writing, and being curious in a whole new way where I can unleash kind of higher power thought. Instead of checking a box, oh, here's my prompt, here's the analysis, here's my business plan, really think, gosh, more expansively, get into a PhD program in operations, and hopefully by 5 years from now, I should be at least teaching and finishing. All my coursework should be done, and I should be working on a dissertation on helping women and
so your hope is that you'll be teaching marginal women
well,
the example of what you've been able to do.
Well, I would teach at business school,
Yeah.
but my research and my writing would be on women, and specifically women who, what is the woman's name who is the Colville scientist?
Kirsten.
Kirsten.
Rudewald.
Okay. Making it so there is an understanding of what is possible by researching people like her, and coming up with a body of work that inspires a generation of mothers,
more Kirstens.
sisters, friends, and community leaders to imagine even more what's possible. Yeah.
That gets you pretty stoked, doesn't it?
It's amazing. That, and then, continuing to work in philanthropy in ways, whether it's on, because I'm on the Providence board right now, and just really being thoughtful with my time and just how I can help
You're
heal.
in some pretty big boards now.
Well, and I think
you're having an influence there, and that's a big deal.
I think we need to heal. I really think the arts, and just for me, it's really fun. I love gardening so much, and cooking. Not the best cook, but I love it. I think the arts and creativity. You said this town is kind of emerging with creatives coming in.
Yeah, it is.
And I would agree with that. And for me, as a non-creative wannabe, I'm a wannabe. I love it. I really am. But I'm terrible. But I do try at everything. But I think that is the most soulful thing, because I love music. I play the piano terribly, and I'll fiddle around, and I always have classical music playing no matter what I'm doing, and sometimes some jazz, and then just cooking. I just think creating is just so beautiful. So yeah, I think it's going to be part of our healing. I hope it brings us together. I hope a lot of people go to the Symphony in the Park this year.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So on the business side, last question. What is your philosophy of business, having been in that seat for 8.5 years or whatever it was, and growing up the ladder, and then getting to a point where you're like, okay, I think I need a different route. What is your philosophy that makes it go well? I think you shared it probably.
I really love that. What is your philosophy of business? Well, I would say empathy and listening is sort of central, because great ideas and the best ideas actually usually come from not yourself, but a whole bunch of people thinking in ways you can never even imagine to think. But the philosophy is of inclusion and community, for sure. Because if your plan doesn't really plan for the long term, and that's indigenizing, indigenizing my business ethic, which is really, I think, a sincere way of framing it, really means the decisions are never near-term shareholder driven. They're long-term and shareholder driven. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to work one over the other, because it won't last.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. Can I ask what yours is? Because you're awesome.
Wow, that's tough.
And a creative, so I'm sure.
I think it's, I've always felt like, as somebody that runs a business, giving my team the best tools they can have no matter what. Mm-hmm. And then getting out of the way.
Empowering.
And trusting that they're really good at what they do. Making sure they're there. Taking the training wheels off at some point and going, getting out of the way.
Yeah.
I think, the delegation, how you want to say that.
Yeah.
But trusting that they're great.
Yeah.
And they know they're great. And then to see them grow is really cool.
It is amazing when you see people like evolve, and you are even.
And for our clients, it's always been, making sure everything we do is the truth. This is our 21st year of doing work for SDCU, which is
That's amazing.
Unbelievable to have in our business to have a client for 20 years.
And they're
it's unbelievable.
Their content is amazing.
Yeah.
They're really tongue in cheek this year.
Cool. Yeah.
I love it.
It's so, fun. But the secret to that, longevity is just, every project we've ever done for them has been absolutely the truth. Like every person who's ever said anything about them really meant it. And I early on, that was the most important thing for me is, at the end of the day, as the people who decide things in this world get older and older, our kids cannot be bullshitted.
Yeah.
They know if it's true or not. Right? You know what I mean? They know they can smell advertising a million miles away.
Oh,
don't do it.
They can't be advertised to.
No,
tell them an authentic
story.
story.
And we know, I always say Ronald Reagan said one thing I believed in, pretty much, which is the camera doesn't lie. And if you can really tell if that person's making something up, if it's advertising, if it's a injury attorney and he's just reading a script that somebody wrote for him, or if it's a real person sharing from the heart that this is what they care about, that's what we do. We do the stuff where real people are sharing from the heart and it's true, and that's what built that place. Is those stories of real people who really love them because they're really good. I mean, we just shine a spotlight on great organizations because they're great. Whether we do it or not, I can't make that up.
You're helping tell the story.
I can't sell something that's not true.
What is the toy shop that's featured in?
Fig Pickles.
Fig Pickles. First of all, that place is fun.
Those guys.
They seem like
they
fun
were so
people.
Fun.
And it's such a great draw because
they're talk about joy.
Yeah.
All right. They're all about joy.
Yeah,
that was the key to that campaign. That story was they love it. And they were not aligned with an organization that loved their joy, and they found joy there.
Yeah,
and that's the great story to tell, right?
That's so cool. That's a
real.
Great campaign. Oh, you feel
and those
it.
two
You watch
are
it.
Amazing.
Oh,
and it's real, right?
Yeah.
It's not
you
made
brought
up.
it out. It's
and I think
amazing.
that's the key to certainly the stuff that we do. But you got to tell the truth as a brand. Yeah. And the other thing I think when I talk about brands and the work that we do, because I think at the end of the day we're professional storytellers that help brands grow. That help brands grow. That the most important thing for a brand, it's the most important asset that an organization has.
And it's lived.
It's like, it's our
not
people,
just a
or it's
commercial.
the widgets we make, or
but
whatever.
The people are the brand too. It's
they are
the
brand.
experience.
They are. It's experience. And you have to be able to. It used to be, back in the day, my dad would tell me, if you really want to, have a good year, you go have, cocktails with the publisher of the paper who does an article on you. One article that shows up in both papers and everybody reads it and you're done for the year. And it's like that. There is no newspaper anymore. There's not a collective place where we all gather, a
Isn't
campfire.
That so interesting?
So it's your job as a brand, it's your job as an organization to tell your own story. And you have to tell it right and you have to tell it honest. And that's what we help clients do, is help them tell their own story because it's more believable. Actually,
well, you did that so well with that Fig Pickles
Those
commercial.
two are just a blast.
Well, every time I'm in Coeur d'Alene, which isn't very often the last couple of years, I go to the toy shop.
Well, it's a win for them because they're on the map. Like, you know who Fig Pickles is right now. You know who they are now, right?
Yeah. Well, I knew who they were
really
before.
Brilliant for us
but
to
it
see
made
you
me
to do
like
that.
them and STCU more because they are aligned.
Yeah.
I already liked both places. I'm like, if that makes
Well, they
sense,
do, right.
they should be together. They're both awesome.
And it works because it's true.
And now Frank's there too, which makes me even like them all
so
more.
cool.
That's fantastic.
And usually where I get all my Christmas gifts because that is a cool place,
it
dude.
so is.
Oh my gosh.
For
Those
sure.
two are fantastic. Last question.
Okay.
So the name of this podcast, most interesting person you've never heard of, which is you.
Which is funny. Not interesting.
A lot of people have heard. Yes.
Not interesting.
Oh, whatever. And so who's the most interesting person you've ever met? And I don't count.
Oh, I really like this question.
Isn't that great?
Who's the most interesting person you've ever met? Oh, can I think about it? Is that going to break things?
No, it's not going to break things. Think about it. I didn't say it was easy.
No, it's really
I didn't say this was going to be easy. I know you have met a ton of people. So it's probably unfair.
It's not,
But really, there's got to be somebody that are like, wow.
Oh, well, okay, let me make sure it's... It's a good question. I want to give it a sincere and.
I know, because you're going to drive home and go, oh, I should have said.
Well, I mean, it's easy to say like famous people because I'm in entertainment,
life,
so it's like a lot. Yeah. But
well, you've met some, yeah. Well, maybe they are.
Not really.
See, that's my theory. Why we're doing this podcast is that famous people are really not interesting.
It's kind of what they are in their
Yeah, I mean, they're overdone. And they're not going to share anything.
Their album art's
They're going to tell you what they really are. You're telling me everything. It's great.
Okay, so I think. Yeah.
And maybe it means inspiring to you, but maybe it's
no. I think that you said interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to say. I'm going to say Father Byrne. And
who's that?
Okay, so funny. My old colleagues are like, "Oh gosh, Beatitude Meg," because I was like, you can take the Peacemaker Prayer as a poem, but I think we need to really all just.
You can take the girl out of Catholic, but you can't take the Catholic out of the girl.
No, you really can't. But Father Byrne was a Jesuit who was at St. Al's. Gosh,
here in Spokane.
Yeah, here in
Gonzaga's
Spokane.
campus, yeah.
At Gonzaga's campus. He was for the prep ministry.
Mm-hmm.
He's now, I know he was at least a few years ago. He's probably already moved on. He went out to the Coeur d'Alene tribe. He was after that. So I want to say he probably left 5 years ago. You know how they do their...
of course, yeah.
But his contemplative mass. So I really like meditating. I like contemplating and just... Because it's more introspective. Like, how do I be more for the world? How, and what are my values and just how
especially go-go's like us, we got to slow down.
Yeah, it's important, right? And so his contemplative masses, and they're really pretty academic, and as Jesuits, it's the academic order. And that whole purpose of that 7:00 mass at St. Al's is to really push you for the week spiritually, to make sure you're grounded in the best version of yourself so you could be the best for others and be women and men for others. But his homilies were just amazing. And agape love, I mean, you talk to anybody, it's like, oh, I love you. Like, it's like, I want to help you be more of that because I love that. You're amazing, right? I find miracles everywhere. But he really spoke agape love, even when he was talking about something that might have been a contemporary issue in the news or trying to teach a lesson about humanity. I just felt agape love, true, like humanity.
So he needs to be a guest here.
Oh gosh, yes.
All right, let me know if you think of.
He was challenging. My son still emails with me quite a bit. He was at high school. He was there at the time that Father Byrne was there, and I think he got his mind blown often by just things he would make you get introspective about. Yeah. And he wasn't the type that would proselytize, which is funny to say for somebody who's literally at the pulpit. But it was, the whole point was you need to think about this and make sure you are. So I would say Father Byrne.
Wow.
Because he really, he taught me a lot about thinking, which sounds odd, and making sure thinking never was away from love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. Who's the most interesting person? Because now you've been asking people 6 times.
Who's yours? Ever met?
Yes. If you see your kids, I'm going to be so mad because I felt like I should say my kids.
Way interesting.
All of our children are the most interesting people.
We don't have a choice.
I didn't technically meet them. I made them.
Crazy interesting. Wow, most interesting person I've ever met. That's really hard. I should know that. I have this podcast about that.
It's a hard question.
Yeah. I think about, I guess it's people that I've interviewed over the years that have been.
And you've interviewed a lot of really amazing people.
Close to 1,000 people.
Wow.
Hundreds and hundreds anyway.
Wow.
I don't even remember all the people that I've interviewed.
That's amazing.
But I think of about
it's a big body of work.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. I don't think anyone would.
A lot of people that I've talked to.
I really don't think anyone would.
Yeah. I think there's couple people. One that I recently interviewed was talking about the native world. There's a guy named J.R. I'm going to get his name wrong. He is an elder with the Nez Perce tribe.
Okay.
And we got hired as a project to do a story about the heart of the monster.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
Which is the creation story of the Nez Perce tribe, and it's on the Clearwater River in Kamiah.
Okay.
And my wife grew up in Kuski, Idaho, right on the Clearwater, right near
Okay.
there. And
So
she would
you
go
even
to,
have a connection.
and all the stuff you're talking about with small town and the powwows and all that stuff. She's the same way. And the seventh generation idea of she doesn't waste stuff. You know, she's really conscious about that.
You eat
almost
all the
to a
leftovers
fault.
Too.
Yeah, all of
Oh, I think
just to a fault. I mean,
I
she's
think Joanna and I would get along well.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
would. You need to hang out for sure. But he was an amazing guy. We got to sort of hear the creation story of the nest purse, and he performs it, and we filmed it, and we filmed it for an organization that will use it to show to kids all over the country about another way to tell a creation story. So there's the creation of the United States and how we tell it, or we've been told it over the time, and then this is another alternative way to do that. And you know, we filmed it right on the Clearwater River, right at the place where they believe their tribe was formed 16,000 years ago.
That's
and
beautiful.
it is an amazing story. And then the interview with him afterwards about what they've gone through as a tribe and the Treaty of 1855 and all the stuff that, you know, what the hardships that they've had and the struggles that they've had and how they've kind of come full circle almost to getting there was super inspiring. I mean, that guy was just like, wow. It was,
and that
you could feel the elders. I could feel the elders.
That's amazing.
That's one I think about that's just coming to mind.
That's amazing.
I have the best job in the world because I get to talk to interesting people every day. Really.
And I could say sitting in this chair, everyone sitting in it is equally lucky.
Oh,
I'm so happy you're doing this. It's so good for Spokane.
Cool.
I think this is
so
going to be
too.
part of the healing because too many people are behind screens,
behind
ideas.
There's amazing, interesting people who live here, and some of them really are people have heard of.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was funny because I really get, that's what I do every day is talk to people that you've really never heard of, but they're the most interesting people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, you know, I got to interview a lady who's, I think I mentioned in another podcast, but she was a principal at a high school in inner city Detroit.
Oh gosh, that's a hard
African American. And I mean, I walked in, she's like, "Who are you and what do you want?" You know, I mean, this is a big
tough lady.
Oh yeah, this is a big tough lady.
Yeah.
98% African American school.
Oh yeah.
And I was, you know, like, we were the three only white guys within 5 miles of that school, and it was the happiest place on earth.
Oh.
And
she had the
amazing.
She had it going on.
3 kids that had gone from that school to MIT the year before.
Wow. And
So,
was she from the community or?
Oh yeah.
And she just was like, I'm going to make a difference.
A force.
A force. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And
people like that.
she's another one that comes to your mind. See,
She comes to mind
and that
immediately.
And you know what is interesting to me? So Father Byrne, though a priest, is a force because anyone who could make you think so deeply about love, social justice, and who am I? Like, really?
All the Jesuits
at the
are pretty
same time.
Yeah, right.
But it kind of kicks you, right?
Oh
like
yeah, they don't mess around.
And the fact that you're looking at people who are, you know, like, hey, no, there's another telling of this story, or hey, this is our community, and it is strong.
Yeah.
That is what you're doing with this podcast.
Yeah. Well, there's a million Jesuits who've been influencing me in my life. There's a ton. There's a couple I want to have on this show, but there's a guy named Steve Lantry who taught me at Gonzaga Prep.
Oh, okay.
He's in Missoula now, I think, but had been at the Jesuit novitiate in Portland for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Amazing, just sort of gentle little guy, really cool. We always called him Sherman and Peabody. You know the little cartoon with Sherman.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
The Way Back Machine. Anyway.
The Way Back Machine. That's awesome.
Anyway, he kind of remind. Anyway, he's an amazing guy. We went to a wedding of a really good friend's daughter got married a couple years ago, and he gave the homily at the wedding. You know, and he said, what. Because, you know, people always ask me, what do you know about, you're a priest, what do you know about marriage?
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
He said, well, I read a lot. We're like,
I got the theory down pat.
But one of the things he said the most amazing couple he ever worked with, he asked why did their marriage work really well.
Oh.
You know, and he shared that.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. He said, we tell each other the things we can't tell each other.
Oh, fully vulnerable, fully open, fully human.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
it's
is
hard,
awesome.
You know?
Yeah.
To tell that person the things you don't want to tell them.
Yeah.
And I was like, my wife and I both just like lost it. Because like that's the key.
That's beautiful.
You know, that's the key to a really great relationship.
Yeah.
You know, telling somebody what you can't tell them
Yeah.
and being okay with it and sort of surviving it.
Yeah.
You know, because you know it's a crazy hard time. Relationships are tough. Marriage is hard.
They are. Yeah,
a lot of
and I've been divorced.
I
and it was
too,
hard.
and
It was
not
really hard.
An easy thing, you know.
No.
We always joke, my wife and I are like, "What's it?" You know, we've been married almost 10 years, and 10 years, and
that's big.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And we always George Harrison's wife, the Beatle, you know.
Yep. Love the Beatles.
What's the secret to a long marriage? Because they were married like 35 years.
Okay.
And she said, the secret to a long marriage is don't get divorced.
I love that. But you know what?
Because it's hard, you know.
You know what I love about this conversation, Frank? We were just talking about this with people the other day, and I don't remember who it was, and you know, people measure things like jobs and marriage in number of years.
Right, like it's a bad
quality.
Right,
instead of the quality of those years.
Yeah, were those good years? Or
yeah, exactly. Did they edify your soul? Did they transform you into your best self?
Right.
Or was it just like because you're supposed to do this until
I think less today, but our parents.
Oh, our parents, it was.
I made it to 56.
Duty. It was duty and obligation. Let's be clear.
56, and you guys were
driving
each other crazy.
And we were all opposed to your. However, whatever 4 years after movie. I was alive.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
But so I appreciate that.
There's a whole podcast about this.
Yeah, that's funny. But the priest saying we tell each other the things we can't
tell each other.
The things we can't tell each other. That is like a no matter whatness.
Yeah, and
that's
it's
a no matter whatness. If you can't handle it,
then
maybe it's not supposed to. Yeah.
Well, but the people who can handle it and hear it,
they've got your back.
Yeah,
no matter what.
I think that was just like the whole room.
Yeah.
You know, the couple that's up there getting married is like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to all of you. And we were all like, it was so cool.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you.
Jesuits are cool, man.
Can I tell you a secret now? I'm going to tell you a secret.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is so funny. I'm a very private person. That's when nobody knows me. Whatever interesting people that
nobody knows. Ladies.
Because nobody knows me because I don't talk about anything. Funny. No, I actually fell in love with my partner during a Father Byrne homily.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because I was kind of resistant.
Does Father Byrne know that?
Actually, he does. He does.
I hope so.
Yeah,
he'd be proud of that.
He's pretty amazing. And everybody kind of knows it. But in my family. But yeah, it was during one of his homilies, and I have to just admit, I wouldn't have said it at the time. I wouldn't have understood it, but I was resistant because it's like, you know, the boys are such ages, and there's this and that, and busy in life, and just
I don't have time for that.
And that is exactly, I don't have time for that, right? And so it was not making time for the fullness of life.
Even though if you put that on your cosmic order that we just talked about, you would.
I have to do that.
It would be up there.
We're doing a cosmic order.
We got to do it. We're
You're
doing
have
circle plus minus with you.
Please.
I'm happy to.
But it was during one of his masses, and he in the whole entire mass was about love, and it wasn't the agape kind. It was the amorous kind. And I was there with my sister-in-law.
Falling in love with somebody.
Yes, exactly. Well, and he was talking about falling in love with yourself, which I really quite appreciated.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I was there with my sister-in-law, who my sister-in-law and my brother are my besties, and so there with my best friend and family, and it was just the most amazing thing. He's giving this homily, and I was listening, and I am what are you saying? Okay, how does thinker, cogitating, like what is happening?
Here,
all that,
not here.
and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it just sort of hit me like a ton of bricks. And then he stopped his homily and he said, I'm going to have everybody just get to know the person around him for a minute. Just say hello. And it wasn't sign of peacetime, nothing. And there are these two older ladies in front of us. I think they'd come from like Rockwood Retirement Center, gotten the bus down to the pretty St. Al's on the weekend. And they introduced themselves to us. I'm like, oh, you sisters. And they were so awesome and fun. And we visited for a second. And one of them was from Duluth. And we were going to...
I've been to Duluth.
Oh, so have I.
Toodaloot. Going Toodaloot.
Is that how you say it?
They all said like, are you going Toodaloot?
Oh, that's so funny. It sounds like you're yodeling.
Toodaloot.
I quite like it.
It was like 3 below when I was there.
Oh, so luckily we were there in August for a friend's wedding.
Yeah, on the lake and the school.
It's gorgeous. But we were heading out there for a friend's wedding in a few weeks.
Oh, cool.
And she said, oh, you're going to fall in love there. And I was like, what is happening? It was all so weird. And I looked at Jennifer, who was like she's known my partner forever, and she was like, "You guys are just, you don't even know." And so it was just sitting there in mass, and I love St. Al's, and it wasn't contemplative.
My parents
mass.
were married there.
Oh, it's
1952.
so pretty. It's so
It's a special place.
and it was 10:30 mass, not even my mass, like contemplative mass. It's dark and like moody and intellectual, right? Like, it was 10:30 mass, fun with the bus and my sister. And
you're wearing a beret.
Yeah, whatever. We were probably going to get brunch after.
Bongos.
So it was really cool. So that's part of why I chose Father Byrne, because he helped me see the fullness of life that I didn't see by myself. I just knew. Well, I mean, we'd been together for a while. I was just very resistant to like the concept of openness.
The big leap.
Well, exactly. So apparently,
it's funny. The guy we had on this podcast a couple weeks ago, he's a baseball guy, a really amazing guy. Worked in Major League Baseball and all kinds of baseball for a long time, and he met his wife. He's Catholic.
Oh, okay.
Nick Pupo, amazing guy, and he was in Rome doing work with the Italian Baseball League, and he was at St. Peter's Basilica.
Oh, this is your neighbor.
No, not my neighbor.
No, not your neighbor. Okay.
No, just a good old friend. He's an amazing guy. And he was at the Basilica, and there's a lady, an old lady, just kind of looking at him, and she's saying the rosary or something, and she looks at him, and she goes, "Hey," he goes, "What?" She goes, "No campagna." Oh yeah. No ring. No. He goes, "No, I'm not married. I don't have, no campagna." She goes, "Oh, I'll pray a rosary for you."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Okay, whatever." And then that day he goes to a birthday party and meets the love of his life.
Yeah, there's something about God, and I don't care what your religion is. I really think there's ultimately, it could be grandmother creator with some native cultures. It can be Buddha.
Right.
I think ultimately the source, that agape love, the source of because I think our cells turn over and we're basically a new human, just in terms of cells every single year. That's cool. If it's not a soul and something bigger, that's not perfect, because we're not anything like we were a long time ago, and the human capacity is so much greater than atoms. But the two amazing older ladies in front of us, she said, "Oh, you're gonna fall in love there," and my response to her was, "I just did." And Jennifer, my sister-in-law, just was like,
that's so great for
it
you.
Was so it was and that is the wonder of the universe. Not to sound too churchy, but that is exactly what it is. Because if you don't allow for fullness,
you have to allow.
Exactly.
That's the trick of the whole deal.
You have to allow for the fullness of life
and expect it's going to be great.
Yeah,
and it will be.
And then also know that you have to be men and women for others. Like if you don't give, St. Luke, to those who much is given, much is expected. Marvel did much better with that with Spider-Man. I think most people tell me it's Spider-Man when I say that. I'm like, you know what? Spider-Man said it well too, but it's actually St. Luke. It goes back they
ripped it off. Whatever.
Inspired. But to those who much is given, much is expected, and that is not about treasure. That is your soul, your intellect, your energy, your love, and increasing mankind through every human interaction.
Being fully human.
Yeah, exactly. Fully human, fully vulnerable, fully powerful when it's time, fully courageous, fully just, I'm spent and I'm going to follow somebody right now.
Well, you're fully awesome.
Oh, you're fully awesome.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
How's your golf game?
It's fun.
We need to play.
Like
last
all
time I played golf
games,
with you, I sucked.
Hey, wait, how was
it? Was
did
like
I drive
the worst
okay?
game. You were good.
No.
Yes.
No,
and I literally, this was like at Kalispell.
Yeah, was it there's 3 summers ago now.
We had just done their campaign.
Was it 3 summers ago?
It was like 3 years ago.
I was going to say pre-pandemic. I love Barb.
Oh my God. She's got to be on the show too.
Oh, she so does.
Oh,
can we have
love Barb.
Can we have the interrupting podcast where there's 4 of us? So bad. Can we have a gin and tonic podcast?
Yeah, that would be dangerous.
Where there's a whole group of us?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
With Barb?
Yes.
And...
Well, we should play, because
we should
I've literally since then thought of how bad that's the worst I played in 5 years, and I still think about it. I'm like, God dang it! Every time I see Barb and Meg, I'm like, they think I'm a horrible player.
You're supposed
to. You don't remember that?
I do remember it distinctly.
You remember how bad I was?
We talked about the gin and tonic club. We talked about forming a club. And we never did.
That should happen. Well,
that's okay.
Maybe this is your.
Well, and we never set a date to it. We just put it out there.
It's going to happen.
So just because it hasn't doesn't mean it's not going to.
Well, we should play again.
So I remember the Gin and Tonic Club. I don't remember the play because you're not supposed to remember the number of strokes. You're supposed to remember how much your ribs hurt the next day because you were laughing.
Okay, well that's good.
We played well.
Okay, good.
Because I think nobody stopped talking the entire 18 holes, and everybody was laughing hysterically the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you were more focused on
the inside.
amusing the two of us. And Barb's a better golfer than I am. I'm sure you were just amusing the two of us. And yeah, she really is.
Well, at some point my game was so bad. What did I have left? Comedy relief. That's all I had.
I golf consistently, and by consistently,
you were good.
I mean
you had a great swing.
I can either have a couple of great drives that day, or I can putt okay that day. But I can't
put it together.
I can't consistently do both. I am consistently inconsistent at both having a long and a short game.
You're gonna be.
But I have fun every time.
You're a good swing.
Do you know what I found out this summer? I really like carrying my bag and
Walking's
doing
better.
9 holes.
I play better when I carry bag.
I really like it.
Yep. Or pull handcart or something. But
I'm getting myself a handcart.
You know why? It's a different for people like us that are like go.
Yeah.
You need that. It is a rhythm game.
It just is,
and it helps you slow down. And I think I always play better when I walk.
I think I think
always.
less.
Yeah, you do.
I feel like
you experience the place.
I enjoy.
Yeah,
I enjoy the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I enjoy the day.
Yeah, I mean, I played for a long time. It's a Zen game, man.
It is a Zen game, though.
I love it.
If you're not having fun, you should just get off the course immediately because you're just going to get frustrated.
I don't know why I didn't leave that day. I really should have.
Excuse me, you were golfing with Barb and me. That's why.
That's why.
And making us laugh hysterically.
That's true.
Formulating clubs.
That's true. Well, thanks for doing this.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is such a cool idea. Thank you for being somebody who tells a great story of Spokane.
You're welcome. And good luck on the big leap. You have to come back because we got to see what happens.
Well, it's going to take years, you know.
So it'll be like that.
Okay.
It will be.
It is actually probably it's going to feel like that because that's how life is, isn't it?
That's how it is.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks. Thanks again to Meg Miller, one of the most energetic people you'll ever meet and the most interesting person you've now heard of. Since we recorded our conversation, Meg has, as you might have guessed, accomplished a bunch of what she had hoped to do during our chat. Meg has been accepted into the MIS PhD program at Washington State University. She's finishing her MBA AIE Masters at Gonzaga next month. It's an MBA with a special concentration on Native American entrepreneurship. Meg's also supporting some of our community resources through her newly formed Bridge Consulting Services. Keep changing the world for the better, Meg, and stay interesting.